Happy Thursday. Welcome to Couch Talks, the listener Q&A episode to the Feeling Things podcast. I'm Amy.
And I'm Kat. And today's email we're going to keep anonymous. So just FYI for anybody who does send an email, you don't have to share your name if that helps you feel more comfortable sending in your question.
Because this listener did say specifically, please keep anonymous.
Mm-hmm. And I also want to add up top that even though I am a therapist and we're answering your questions, this is not therapy and is not therapeutic advice. It's just us giving 2 cents.
Our 2 cents.
Take it as you please.
But Kat's is worth more because she is a therapist.
You have some good stuff to say.
Well, this I could relate to.
Yeah.
This listener's email. And this is a specific question to her and some family drama that she is currently experiencing. But our answer, I will say, may help others in a lot of ways if they don't have family drama, but maybe they have some boundaries that need to happen in friendships or in work, or and then there's other people in your life that start to ask questions, and it's like, well, how do I tell people what's going on, especially kids, because then they start to wonder, like, where's Aunt Sue, and you're like, well, let me tell you,
sit down,
about
I have
Aunt
a story
Sue
for you.
So.
Let's get
That's
in.
the little, did we preface enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kat's going to read the email, and then we'll get into our 2 cents and 3 cents.
Okay. So this email says, "Hey there. We have spent 2 years with no communication with any of my husband's family, parents and siblings, due to disrespectful words and actions towards me. We came to a decision that it was best for our family as a whole and my husband and I's relationship if we set very strict boundaries around his family and cut communication with them ASAP. It's now been 2 years since we've spoken or seen any of them, but our kids go to school together. How would you suggest we answer questions our 2 sons may have regarding why they don't see or know them? We only live 10 minutes from them. Sincerely, a mom who needed boundaries."
First of all, we admire you for protecting your peace and doing what's best for your family, even when it's not easy, because setting boundaries with family is so hard. Secondly, I think it's interesting you say ASAP, because I say ASAP.
Okay, so
do you say ASAP every time?
I don't know. As I was reading that, I saw that word coming ahead, and I was like, how am I going to address this when it comes? And then ASAP came out. But I think if I did it again, I don't know. I might say ASAP.
Because then it got me curious, like, how does she say FYI? Does she say fight?
I think
or
ASAP is easier for me to trip over.
With PSA, or you like psa?
Yeah, I say psa. I know I say that one.
Psa. Which, side note, little PSA, I just recently prepped this for the Bobby Bone Show, so it's top of mind. And did you know that back in the day, we had about 17 minutes to get out of our house if it was on fire, and we'd likely live. But now, because of the way our furniture is made and certain chemicals that are used, our house engulfs in flames so much faster, and we have now like 3 minutes to get out of our house. And not even just dying from the flames, like inhalation from all the fumes and chemicals and whatnot.
Where does this information come from?
It's just my psa for the day.
That's crazy.
It's a PSA.
I guess it would matter like the size of your house and all of that, but that's interesting.
Well, and I mean, actually, when you talk about the size of your house, the taller your ceilings are, it can actually, don't quote me on this, but I think like go up in flames faster because of the air.
That makes sense. With all the tornado warnings that were happening recently, I was talking to, I get really nervous with weather. And I was texting my family at night, making sure everybody was in their safe spaces. And my sister-in-law was like, we didn't get as worried as you because they live in a house. Have you been to my sister-in-law's house? They live on a farm in a house that was built in like the 1700s. Have you been to there?
No, I haven't been there. Okay. But it sounds to me like they probably have 17 minutes to get out.
Yes.
It's
more
it's
than
not
that,
a modern
probably.
home.
She said, she was like, this house is made out of cinder blocks and they're like probably like 3 feet wide. So I think if it stood up this long, it's okay. So their safe space was their whole house. And I was like, I get that. And I think you should still find a safe space.
Yeah, you need to find a safe space. Okay. back to the email. Because people might be here just for the advice, and they're like, wait a second. Although you never know when that psa is going to save your life, because you're going to be like,
that's
oh my
not going
gosh.
to save our life right now. Oh, I guess.
Yes, it might, because you might be like, oh, okay. I once heard we have 17 minutes to get out, and that has changed.
You're saying, psa, you only have 3 minutes.
I'm saying PSA. Okay, PSA. What other acronyms can we turn into words? Like,
I guess PS, you could just say ps. But I think people do that, like, ps.
Yeah. Okay, my thoughts. After we got this email, I started thinking about something similar. I went through myself, and my situation is different but similar, and my kids have asked questions. And I think, first of all, it's important to keep it simple. That has worked well for me, is keeping it simple and not bringing in any blaming or bashing of anybody involved. Even if that is what you feel on the inside and you are boiling and you feel like you have every right to blame or bash. Just be like, oh, I know you really want to come out here, but you're not welcome. Because it also helps you feel like validated in like your decision, and you don't need to validate anything with your kids or anybody else for that matter. So keep it simple. I like that I was able to also show my kids that boundaries can be a beautiful thing. They can be intimidating and a little scary, but also I want to be an example to my kids of what boundaries look like. So I didn't mind having a healthy conversation around the boundaries with them. And I think showing our kids boundaries early on can give them some emotional like security, which I think is huge for them to see. And my kids might ask more later, and I will address that when I get there, because I think as they age, if other questions come up, I can revisit it and tell them maybe more when they're older, because my son is 14 and my daughter's 17. So I've actually told her more than I told him, because it's more age appropriate for her to know more. But again, with no blaming or bashing mixed in, especially when it's family. Like you don't want them to, they're kids. So like they may say something to somebody else, and then you don't want it to get back to Aunt Sue, or they show up and Aunt Sue's kids haven't done anything wrong. And the next thing you know, cousin's saying to cousin like, oh, well, my mom said your mom's a real blah, blah, blah.
Because they easier repeat things.
Yes.
Like just what they hear.
And then
in general,
cousins can still have a beautiful relationship, and your crap shouldn't have to impact their relationship, unless for whatever reason, them going over there might be boundaries around that if there's like a safety concern. But yeah, kids, sometimes they're innocent in this. You don't have to drag them in. And obviously I say this with nuance because every situation is so different, but back to my little notes here I had about this. Also, others have asked me about my situation that are not my kids, and I don't feel like I owe anyone outside of my home a full explanation. So I just want to remind you that you don't have to share that with others either.
Even if they're not kids.
Even if they're not kids, yeah. Because sometimes people just want the gossip.
Yeah. I think that's probably a big part of this is what is the information that they need versus what's the information that they want. And this is with any probably question we're going to answer on here, but we can't give you exact answers because we don't know all of the details, and every situation is different. So depending on their age, depending on what it is that happened that called for these boundaries, there's going to be a little bit of a different answer to this. And so I really like what you said, where you're keeping it simple. I like keeping it on how we feel and what we need versus what they did, and take it from there. And they can keep asking questions. And that also, I think, is having somebody ask you a question and being able to set a boundary with that question is really good modeling also of what you're doing. So like, just like I'm not ready or feel blank about answering this question right now, that's how I felt when I did XYZ and had to create this boundary with Aunt Sue. So you can model a boundary within a boundary, which is kind of cool. And then always leave space for there to be more discussion. Doesn't mean I really like when somebody says you can ask me whatever you want. Like I want you to feel free to ask me whatever you want. I might not always answer everything to the extent that you are looking for, but I want you to feel safe to ask questions.
Especially kids. I think that's so important for kids to always feel safe to ask or say anything. Like I want my kids to feel so safe. I'm glad you said that. And then you also remind them, but it doesn't mean you're going to get the answer that you want.
Yeah.
But I then they feel more comfortable. They don't ever feel scared to ask or say anything.
Yeah. I think that pops into my head because in intake sessions at work, what I will say is I want this to be a mutual relationship, and I know I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions. I want you to know two things. One, you don't have to answer every question I ask you. So that, and a lot of people are like, oh, I don't, because they feel like if I'm asking them something, they have to tell their answer, and they might not be ready, or they might just not want to tell me. And that's a way for them to like have agency in that space. And also, you're allowed to ask me questions. With that, I might also not answer all of them, especially if they're about my life or if they're about I get a lot of, well, what would you do in that situation? And that's a really hard question to answer, and also not usually the most helpful question
I feel
to
like
ask.
if I was a therapist, I'd be like so many people, depending on their situation that they'd be in. I feel like sometimes I might look at them and be like, well, first of all, I would never be in the situation you're in.
Okay, that would be really helpful to them, probably.
Yeah, that'd probably be really toxic therapist.
You'd be like, okay, so this is what I would do, and da 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 da. But you also, the reason that is because, well, one, you have to be careful about giving advice in those spaces. But two, I always want people to feel like the progress they make or the wins they have are from them and not from me. So if I tell them every single step and every single thing to do, then they're going to feel like I did it instead of them. And also, then they're going to feel like they need me forever versus I'm teaching them.
So
how
do
to
y'all
fish.
want us to graduate? Like as therapists to clients, like do you?
I want
Because
you.
it's on. Life is ongoing. There's always things we need a therapist for. But if we're coming in and we're talking about the same thing over and over, that's probably not ideal.
A lot of times in our lives, because we are who we are, the same problem pops up in different ways. So I want clients to heal whatever they're coming in to heal, or find whatever they're coming in to find. I want them to do that. It's not like I'm like, I want you to hurry up and learn this and get out of here. Depending on who you are, some therapists like won't see clients for like over 2 years or over 3 years. So they have like a cutoff. I more so, we change the frequency of how often they're seeing me. So I might have a client that sees me every single week for like 2 years. And then they're like, okay, I think I've built up enough skills that I want to try to handle this stuff without, because sometimes I end up being a security blanket, you know? So like, okay, well, let's go to every 3 weeks. And they do that. And then maybe they go to every month. And then sometimes they're just coming in every other month just to do some check-ins and to keep that relationship. So then when something does pop up that they need more acute help with, they don't have to catch me up on the last 5 years of their life. And there's always that open relationship where if they need to go back to weekly, they can.
Yeah. Okay. It's good to know. Making a mental note.
But we're not, I think a lot of times people are like, you want people to not get better because that's how you make your money. And what I would say to them is, I mean, there's so many people in the world. There's always another client. So it's not like
there's enough drama in the world, but there may be therapists out there that are like,
sure, yeah,
really purposefully being a little crappy to keep people around.
Yeah,
no,
there
that would be
is.
bad. That would be bad.
Is.
I'm going to therapy tomorrow with my boyfriend for the first time.
Oh, is this a new therapist or?
No, he's coming to
your session.
Mine.
How are you feeling?
I'm excited because I think all we need are just some tools for our tool belts or our toolbox.
Yeah.
Like we just need, our relationship comes with this, every relationship has its own challenges. We have a unique set of challenges that I sometimes struggle navigating, and him too. And then we've got, between the two of us, 5 kids in the mix. So there's just some things that pop up that.
Yeah.
But I will say he didn't handle something well the other day. I wonder how I could say this. I think I could just say it. I mean, I haven't run this by him, but it's fine. I think I was there and I didn't have my kids and I was done with all my stuff and I was over there. And normally I'm over there and we're all hanging out and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost dinner time. And he said, "What are you doing for dinner?" It wasn't like, "What are you doing for dinner? Do you want to stay and eat with us?" It was like, what's your plan for dinner? Sort of that energy.
Yeah.
It's not how he meant it, but
Do you want to use the script?
yeah.
Okay.
So I did. I used the script
Okay.
that we made. So I said to him later, when you said, "What are you doing for dinner?" I felt awkward and unwelcome.
Mm.
And the story I told myself was that I needed to leave right away. So I did. I mean, it wasn't like
Yeah.
right away and dramatic,
But
but
you
I kind of
definitely
sat
didn't
there
stay
for a
for-
minute and I was like, oh my gosh, like, am I not staying for dinner? Because I kind of went over there thinking like, we had just cooked dinner there the night before and there was all the leftovers that I cooked. I cooked the dinner. So I was like, obviously. And he knows that I don't have my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And what else am I
What
going to
do you
do? I'm
need?
going to go home. And so what?
What did you say? What did you need from him? when
Oh,
you
and then I said, so, and I don't know if I did this part right, but then I said, so what I need is for you to not say that. Just kidding. I said, what I need is if you need to have like a night with your kids or you feel like y'all are going to have a conversation, I need you to be upfront with me about that. Because his normal vibe when I'm there, and I didn't know he was having some uneasiness about some stuff that is going on with us and the kids and just different things that maybe one day I can share. But I think when you're merging families, there's all kinds of things. Like there's just, I think it's just obvious. There would be some moments where maybe he needs to have some conversations with them and he was leaving town the next day. So maybe that was his moment to talk with them. And if I'm there, they can't have that conversation. So I guess what I need is for you to give me that heads up because normally that's the vibe. If I'm like, oh, well, hey, I got to go. He'll be like, no, I thought you were going to stay for dinner. I want you to stay the whole time. And the energy was just so weird. And so when he said that and he was like, well, that's not what I meant, but I just needed more clarity because I think it would have been helpful up front.
Something that
Yeah,
you
he
weren't aware
wasn't
of.
saying to me like,
So
hey,
you filled in the blanks.
I'm feeling really uncomfortable with some stuff with the kids that I need to discuss and you can't be there for it because I want them to feel able to talk about it.
Yeah.
And they did have a conversation, but I did use the script and
Good
I was
job.
proud. So
You need
and
more tools like that.
So now I
yeah.
have the script memorized, which is a big deal for me. Big deal. But it's probably because of your cute graphic that you made, because now I'm picturing the graphic in my mind. So it's I Feel Blank, which y'all can go to at Feeling Things Podcast on Instagram and you can see the graphic. You can have the graphic, screenshot it, save it, click that little save button and use this. It is so helpful because it just made the whole thing so easy. I felt, when you said blank, I felt blank. And the story I told myself was blank. And what I need is blank. And I did it all. Check. And he was like, oh, I am so sorry. Like I think he said, I can even read the exact text just to be fair to him here since I'm springing this on. He said, I am sorry. I'm trying, but obviously screwing up plenty. Thanks for your patience.
Oh.
And I double tapped it heart.
And again, now we're going to therapy. But that's a
And now
perfect
we're going to
example
therapy.
too, how therapy isn't it just has that negative connotation to it. And if you're going to therapy, that means like something bad and something is wrong versus like, no, we're in a unique situation. And why wouldn't we go get more tools that would help us if
Right. And
we
we're
can.
not going to therapy because of that. We'd already booked therapy because of another thing. So, which I don't know to our anonymous listener if you do have access to therapy, but because it is your family, this is going to likely be an ongoing thing that might really take a toll. And from other family stuff that I've been through, it is just so helpful to get third-party insight if you have access to that. So I just encourage you in any way, but you're also free to email us for our 5 cents.
5?
Yeah, 2 plus
for our
3 is
nickel.
5. Yeah.
One thing to add before we close is it can be really helpful to role play it too. So if you and your husband practice, like one being the kid that's asking the question and one giving the answers, so you feel more prepared. And
Oh yeah, you got to clarify. Speaking of, before
It's
you tell
really
your
fun to
husband,
role play.
I know, but you need to say, "Hey, husband, I would like to try to help our kids with the family drama. So can we role play that out?" You can't go to your husband and be like, "Hey, can we role play tonight?" And then explain, because then he's going to be like, "Well, tell me more," and then he's going to be like, "Wait, what?"
Okay, good clarification. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure Big P's into that. I'm just kidding. Okay, bye. I'm just kidding. We hope you have the day you need to have. And we will see y'all coming up on Tuesday for more feeling things. In the meantime, email us, heythere@feelingthingspodcast.com. Find us on YouTube. Find us on all the things. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.